Social media, Abby, I know you love it so much, and you just disappeared on me. And you're gone the moment I say it. Okay, social media.
There's going to be a new social media platform for people who don't show their faces.
Yes, that's it. Yeah, they're already there. Or people that don't show their identities. So social media, I want to know how often, and Twitter has been pretty popular in the news lately. How often do you tweet?
I don't tweet.
Neither do I. Neither do I. What? Why? Okay,
so I'm not super worried. I mean, personally, this won't. Well, I guess it could affect me personally, but not based on my use of Twitter.
And what? So when you think about social media, what accounts do you care about? Like if I were to say you could keep whatever, or after, you just, what matters to you in social media? Are there any of the platforms matter to you?
Yeah, I think so. I use them for different reasons.
Mm-hmm.
I still use Facebook. I think the best thing about Facebook is birthdays.
Yes.
And it's the way that I remember and know when everyone else's birthdays are. And then on my birthday, I hear from all these people I haven't spoken to in 20 years wishing me a happy birthday. And there's something so funny about it, but also something so nice about it. And so that's one reason I use it, but also because all of my relatives are on Facebook for some reason, all my aunts and uncles and my cousins who live in Japan and my cousins who live in Australia and my cousins who live in Texas and Chicago. And so it's a really, I see those relatives at best once a year or once every few years. So for me, I get to post pictures of my kids to them and see pictures of their kids. And it's kind of a nice way of keeping up, even though I know Facebook is, now mostly for older people like me.
Do you reply? Here's the thing. Do you reply to the people that say happy birthday to you? Do you reply? Do you because there's some people that'll go through each individually and be like, oh, thank you. Oh, how you been? And they'll do that. Or do you do the after day post, which is thanks everyone for all the wishes? And is that more your speed?
I do it depends. Sometimes I write thank you, or I'll give it a heart emoji, or reach out to somebody if I haven't spoken to them in a while, or I might do I think this year, because my birthday was last week, yes. I think I just did a thank you everybody and put some pictures of my birthday weekend.
You're a birthday person. For me,
I think it's really nice.
I think it's nice. I will say now, I appreciate when everyone does it, but I rarely ever get back or post anything. I kind of am oh, I take it in as a nice sentiment, and then I kind of move on. But I appreciate it, but I'm also awkward and uncomfortable when ever getting attention in that way. So when you're...
I have my kindergarten teacher writing... Yes. My nursery school teacher wrote me happy birthday. The camp director wrote me happy birthday.
The camp stuff is
10
amazing.
People that I have no idea who they are wrote me happy birthday.
The people that have to remind you who they are. Happy, I was your counselor back then. And I love that because I'm you don't have to qualify. I'll figure it out. I recognize the name. I'm not that far gone.
I mean, it's silly, but it's so nice. I think it's really great. And I do love birthdays. So I think it's a really nice way. But it's also... this past week, somebody posted a birthday of somebody who had passed away many years ago, but this was their birthday and they were thinking of them. And then it gave me an opportunity to reach out to them and say, thinking about you today.
Yes.
So I think it's a nice way of being able to post pictures, post memories, talk about people who, whether they're alive or not alive, but kind of celebrating milestones.
Yeah, it's weird. So Facebook really has become, for most of us, that place of, it's easy to get in touch with people. You can kind of follow what's going on in their lives, but it's you don't have to get too involved or too in depth, because I know for me, I've weeded out all the negativity. I've weeded out all the people that go on crazy rants. I've weeded out a lot of the politics or things. I'm I like people that show interesting things, what they're up to, but it seems it's become almost keeping up with friends in a very in a very peaceful, safe, at a distance manner. but neither of us seem
Yeah.
like we use it as like a personal diary or using social media in that sense, which is where a lot of it, I think people might say their personality is wrapped up in who they are online. I mean, it could be they're really funny online. There's people I know that are hilarious. They're just so good at posting things. And every time I see it, it's always funny. They always post interesting things. And in a way, they've become like little media stars in our world, to curate and to always say, okay, if this person puts a link, it's probably thoughtful. It's probably good, probably something I'm going to enjoy. But when it comes to the personal stuff, and this is where I think Twitter is tough, and why some people might not be totally into it, is because a lot of times it's very impulsive, and it's something that can come back to haunt you. So when people are using some of these, I always said Twitter is the best form of self-sabotage, where you're just in a mood, you post something that your friends would find funny, but strangers definitely will not. And then eventually, if something comes up and blows up in your face, someone can go through hundreds or thousands of tweets and say, okay, this shows a pattern of this person being bad. And all of a sudden you're being judged based on these impulsive things that you just thought you were having a good time or being funny or being different or just in a mood that day. And do we want all our
Well,
moods,
so I would
out there?
say, yeah, I think social media can be, of course, tricky because nowadays we can search. I'm
Mm-hmm.
the CEO of a technology company,
Yeah.
right? When we hire people, we take a look at their social media feeds, and it's one way that we get to know people. And so, like it or not, if your account is public, your potential employer is able to get a sense for who you are in some way or how you're
Mm-hmm.
portraying yourself publicly. And that can be, you got to be careful. I think that like and so the same goes for any social media
Mm-hmm.
platform, that your information or your pictures or whatever, however you're portraying yourself is getting out there. And yeah.
That's why when you saw my Instagram with Dollar, my dog, you were like, "Oh my god, he's the best," because all he posts about is the dog. Again, I realize being as non-controversial on social media is the only route to go. And I remember going back to hiring people when MySpace was a thing and looking at interns who would have pictures of themselves passed out drunk, and they think it was funny. And I said, "This is horrible. Like me looking at you in this light, and you're willing to put this image about yourself, it will haunt you." And recently, a friend of mine who's working for a huge company, he was hired at this place, and they did a whole background check and went through everything. And he's recently deleted Twitter because he's a funny person who writes tons in media. And they went through, and he had this whole audit, and he said it was so eye opening because things that were written in total jest that had no offense at all, they're like, this got flagged because you used this word, because you made it. It was even in sarcastic where he was sticking up for someone, and they said, we understand what you're saying. And it didn't, he got the job, but it showed him that even things that were said completely harmless could be misconstrued as something negative. And because of that, he said, I went through, even for me, I had Twitter because early on, I'd like to just have that. I wanted to have it. I didn't want someone else having my name on it. And in a way, I'm squatting on my own name. So no one would go out there when I was working at places and just start tweeting as if they were me or someone else. And I realized when I look back through them, there were time capsules at moments that just don't exist in my life. A lot of the things were kind of stupid. A lot of the things I forgot what I was watching when I made a comment about it. So I just go through and started deleting everything because I realized it wasn't beneficial for me to have this out there. And not that it was offensive or horrible. It just wasn't interesting. It wasn't who I was. Me commenting on like
Right.
watching Ice Road Truckers or something. It just seemed kind of stupid.
I think I think these platforms can become a representation of who you are. I think for some people, Twitter is a great platform.
Yeah.
For some people, Instagram's a great platform. Obviously, today for everyone, TikTok's a great platform.
It's addicting. That's what's addicting all the parents now, because you just scroll.
Certainly.
And I love kids. Kids are
Did you
addicted.
know? So this is going to sound really funny because, of course, I'm sure you know this, but I didn't really quite understand that there are different TikToks. Like there's. Did you know that?
Yes.
Do you know there's like dog TikTok?
Yes.
Yes.
It's getting so like it's its own universe.
great way of
See,
we need Angela to tell us.
that's why Angela will do a whole recap of all the different TikToks. Because for me, I, will use, I'll have accounts on all of them, but a lot of them I don't really follow through, or, just also to log in, because some of them you have to log in to be able to see stuff. So I'm like, you know what, from a media perspective, I realized as media got more and more fractured and then put into social media, that's where you get people. That's how you learn about things now. A lot of the media outlets I used to go to don't exist anymore. But when I realized how much I used, especially during the pandemic, when Reddit was something that I used to use, and then I realized it became this kind of good, digest of everything that I was interested in, because the stuff that I curated is very informational. It's very interesting. I find it funny. But if I were to dive deep into the Reddit world, there's a lot of dark places there. And I don't know those places because I really steer clear of it. So in a way, you create your own universe in these areas. And that's where you get some of your information. That's where you might contribute. A lot of times I'll look at things like personal finance, where people are talking about issues after someone dies or a parent's sick or they're not sure what to do. And, try to send them checklists or try to help out like on a personal level. I rarely do it publicly because, again, I'm raised in media and going to journalism school and being so serious. I know the consequences of having a bad message out there. Like I was taught people.
Well, do you think people should be going back through? Is that something that we need to add to our to-do list?
Yes.
For every year? You go back through your social media posts and make sure that there's nothing on there that you want to delete or that you're embarrassed about, or pictures that you may have posted that you don't want. Because I find that when I've had friends who have either, let's say, I haven't spoken to this one particular friend in a few years. It was a former business contact of mine,
Mm-hmm.
and she used to have all of these pictures of her and her husband and their dog. And over the past year, the only pictures I see are of her and her dog, and I'm like, what happened to him? And so I feel like she clearly, and then I can't even find pictures of him in her. So clearly she went in, deleted him out of her entire social media existence. And I guess it begs the question of, is that what we're supposed to do? Or if you want to, should you do that?
It's the old, you'd rip someone out of a picture. Now you just digitally remove them. It's true. You go through and you curate based on what you want out there. And some people leave it completely alone. I find the memories, when I'll go into Facebook and I'll have memories, they're almost always depressing because they're something that usually doesn't exist in my life anymore. Like, maybe some people find it cute seeing their puppy at a certain point, but then you're like, well, if that puppy's not around anymore or anything, It's a reminder of like, thanks Facebook for reminding me. There was a whole thing where Facebook actually had a problem with their algorithm where they were reminding people of horrible moments in their life. And it would surface these things about people that had died and things. So you'd start your day, you'd go onto Facebook, and immediately you'd see this picture of someone who had died. And it's really upsetting.
That happens to me often on LinkedIn.
Yes.
On LinkedIn, I get friend requests from people who are dead. And I'm like,
do too.
What is going on? Weird.
How don't they know?
Like, I know you.
And it puts me in a mood because I'm like, I miss that person. Yeah. It's like, I'm like, can you figure out, stop telling me to connect with someone who's not. I'm like, I'd love to connect. They're just not around anymore. And the thing I realized was,
and I do like, I will say, I do like LinkedIn, obviously for business reasons.
I like
think it's a really,
At times I've noticed though, it's gotten, again, the polarization has crept in at times where people were posting about things, and it made me think this isn't a workplace conversation to have when people were posting about politics or things like that. And I'd see really angry threads, and I'm like, this is what I see on, again, on Reddit. I see it in places where people are just debating and discussing. And I thought this isn't a good look, because these people, if someone did search for their history, like they were going to be hired, and they noticed all these horrible comments on LinkedIn, they'd say, if they're willing to say this on LinkedIn, they're probably willing to say it anywhere. So do we want this person working for us? And it does, again, it self-sabotages by, it shows your hand in who you might be when you don't need to. Like, people have gotten fired from great careers over tweeting something so stupid that had nothing to do with their lives. So I think the curating, and to realize that when you say social media, you have to think media. Because if the New York Times or the Post or anyone publishes something, there's consequences if it's wrong. That someone will get fired, you will have to print retractions, you might get sued, and you could lose everything. But with this, people think, it's not my primary job. I could say or do whatever I want, but they suffer those same consequences because the job you have could be jeopardized. You're in finance, you tweet something horrible, or you go off on rants. Now all of a sudden you lost your finance job for what? Because you wanted to be a media star? Like, so, but knowing that.
Knowing that people have to be careful.
Yeah.
And then there is what we were just talking about. I think it's really important because after, if you are a family member of someone who has passed away,
Mm-hmm.
you need to let the social media organization know that the person's died, because otherwise they don't know to close down the account.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know if you are, and what you want done with the account. You can choose to,
that's the thing.
In some cases, like Facebook allows you to delete the account.
Mm-hmm.
Facebook allows you to memorialize the account depending on what you want done and what you've done in terms of naming. I think you can choose a legacy contact.
You could do a legacy contact.
Right. And dictate what you want to have happen. But it's important to do that, because otherwise what's going to end up happening is what we just talked about, which is that the account's going to keep adding friends and coming up as a recommended connection, and it's super awkward.
And you can, name, I know a lot of people might not name a legacy contact. So you go in there and you write down, we've talked about digital estate planning before. And we said, if someone had access, like what would you want done? Some people say, I don't care, just let it go, or I don't want someone else taking it over and like posting. Cause again, there's people out there that do have followings and they've built businesses around it. So they might not want it being altered in that sense. And they might just want it memorialized and say, once it's memorialized, it's pretty much locked down and someone can manage the certain posts. They could pin something to the top. They can't accept new friend requests. They can't see messages. So there's kind of rules around that. And Twitter has something similar. And, you could do it for Google with Inactive Account Manager, which connects it to your YouTube. You could do it for, I'm sure TikTok will have something. Snapchat has something. So
I definitely do not want my account deleted.
Yeah.
I don't think I have that. I don't think I have anything. I don't.
Yes.
I don't know what it's tempting, but I don't think I have anything super embarrassing. So I have nothing to hide. And I think that my Instagram account, my Facebook account are really good places for my kids to look, or, future generations to look, to get a sense for the kinds of things I was interested in, the kinds of things I posted, the kinds of pictures I did, because really it's really just a place that I'm posting updates on my family or major milestones.
That's why I created an Instagram, because people make fun of people that have Instagram accounts for their dogs or pets or their babies or something. And the only reason I created it had nothing to do with anyone else. It was that I had thousands of photos on my phone of my dogs. And I wanted a place where I'd pick the best ones, the ones that had memories, the ones I could put little comments about. And I just wanted it there so I could go to it and relive these memories without having to keep all the photos on my phone. So I could have some kind of semblance of like organization. And I realized they're not like racy photos. They're not personal photos. There was just something I wanted out there that at any moment I'd say, okay, if I lost every photo of my dogs, at least I'd know I'd have these really good ones. And these moments that I could remember, when we went to the park, when they went on that trip, when they were like, not feeling well and we went to the vet, when they got their podicures, so in a sense, it was more for me as.
Wait. Did you just say a podicure?
Yeah. Podicure.
What is that?
That's when you get your manicure for dogs. Yeah. They get their paws done. They get the shavings down. Yeah. Totally. You don't. Okay. I'm sure. Yeah. Ask Ben if Ollie gets podicures. He's gonna be like, I give Ollie a podicure.
He's never had a podicure. But he gets groomed. But I could tell you that my next business idea is going to be a social network idea. A social network for podicure pets.
That's
podicure experience.
Podicures.
Just pets getting podicures.
I'm telling you, it is. Look at my Instagram. You're going to see Dollar and Pliskin. They get their little podicures. Most people do it themselves at home, but again, that works too. But it wasn't so much as like a social thing for me to do. But by doing that, though, there's so many friends and people we met that had other interests with their dogs, that had become caring, that, you know, when there's something going wrong, when we've seen dogs again, like that have passed, and, you know, you could say you become friends and you create these bonds with that I never would have thought was possible. People like at the dog run, I don't know their names, but I know their dogs' names, and I know we'll follow each other on Instagram. So
when they got their last pedicure
and
maybe an eyebrow wax.
Yes.
So you just, you know,
and then on Venmo you could see.
The
Did you pay for it on Venmo where there's pedicure, dog getting a little like pedicure? But that was knowing why you use the network and how important it is, because you saying that you don't want it deleted and you want it out there. It's like, great. You know, I mean, maybe one day some of these accounts, they'll just disappear. How many sites that, you know, I'll look through old links, and sites that used to be really big are gone. So maybe one day they're just going to say download and delete.
Yeah, I think that now what I found is that sometimes if I can't find an important photo in my iPhone, I realize that it's, if for whatever reason, maybe it's been deleted by accident or something. I go on either Instagram or Facebook where I've posted things and I can find the photo from like 10 years ago.
That's so true.
So that, to me, it's like, it's become a place to archive important photos. And I have albums set up on social media, on Facebook. I have albums set up on my iPhone too, but I think it's really important. And we can talk about that at another podcast, but how to organize your important photos and videos and memories so that it's not like 10,000
and also
to sift through.
You started with family, and a lot of it, do you remember like the old days where you get like a link to like a Kodak photo album, like, hey, look, our vacation we went on, and it would be something that was completely, you'd have to sign up, you'd have to have, you might be able to view it at some point, but they wanted you to sign up for an account. Shutterfly was one. And now it's like you go on vacation and you're like, oh, cool, look, you posted these, Ben posted these, your parents posted these, a sister or brother posted these. Like, people can kind of like come together with those photos and you see them. And in a way you realize how they're a moment and they're good. You know where to find them if you need to, but at the same time, they're not cluttering up your phone. They're not cluttering up your house. So it's become an easy way to do that, but knowing if the account's important, because some people might say after I'm gone, or at some point they might just want to delete it. Like, I do suggest, the same way we talk about curating photos on your phone, I suggest, and it's something that I've done a ton of, pick a place where you've posted a lot, especially in the past. If you've been using it for 10 years, and scroll all the way to the bottom of it, like to your first post, and just start going up and saying, okay, is this representative of who I am or what I like or what I still believe? Because for me, making like a random TV joke that I don't even understand anymore, that's one of those elements that I think, it was funny then, it's not funny now. And it's not offensive now. It's just kind of, it's not who you are anymore. And as you change throughout your life, you could say it's fun to look at your kid photos. It's fun to someone post something from high school, someone post something from college, I think it's great. Like, eventually I'll find those photos I took of the first days at Everplans, when we were down Chambers Street. But in a way, it's keeping it so you're telling your story throughout your life, but not overdoing it, not doing anything that could eventually cause you any harm.